Live from Miami, Florida, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to Patriots Perspective with Christi Tasker. Your news behind the government's facade. Don't fall victim to propaganda or spend another 30 days in the tech gulag. Turn off your television and just listen. Hear the most mind-opening hours of your life as we interview whistleblowers and real patriots for uncensored truth. The Commie News Network and Fake Book cannot control the power of Jesus Christ. Therefore, they have no power over us. There aren't enough Vegas strippers to fake check what's coming. Put in your earphones and avoid the tech tyrants. Subscribe to patriotsperspective.com now and see the evidence and action items to help you take back your God-given rights, government, and expose Satan and his demons taking up residence in your community. Be sure to hit the like or rumble button and comment to tell us where you're holding the line.
Everybody, welcome to Patriots Perspective on January 21st, 2025. And today is the day of all days that we've been waiting for so long. And there's nobody that's been waiting any longer than Edward. Edward is a J6 hostage that was released last night and pardoned. Edward, I'm going to play a quick clip just so my audience knows exactly who you are, but I want you to go ahead and just briefly introduce yourself, and then I'm going to play what the news media said about you, and let's see what they said then and what they're going to be saying now after these pardons, because as you well know, just to kind of give you a little background, Edward, I've been interviewing January 6th hostages and people caught up in the system since 2021, when my mom actually went to the Capitol herself. As a 70-year-old woman, she saw Capitol Police out back, laughing, jovial, inviting people in. And I said, if tickets had not been over $1,700, I would have probably been in Nancy Pelosi's seat myself. Thank God I wasn't. And I was here and able to interview different people like yourself. But thank you for holding the line. And Edward, please tell us about your experience.
Hi, Christy. Great to meet you. Just to clarify real quick. So I was technically pardoned last night. I still had a misdemeanor on my record that I was doing probation for, but I was actually released from prison in September of last year, a few months ago, because the Supreme Court overturned the 1512 charge. Originally, I was sentenced to 51 months. And when the Supreme Court overturned the 1512, I had to file for bail pending appeal and all this stuff. And you know, the government came back with all these requests for extensions. Yeah, go ahead.
Edward, we're getting some feedback on the spaces. Like mute your spaces. Here's what we're going to do, everybody. I'm going to mute everybody on spaces. Edward, even you, and I'm going to try to let the feed come through my computer system.
You might have muted yourself because I can't hear you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. If I mute you, I'm curious if you'll mute yourself really quick on spaces.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Just try that and let's see if that works. Okay. Now let's try and see if you guys can give us a thumbs up if it works. We're actually trying several different things on different channels. If you'll give us a thumbs up and make sure that everybody can hear, that would be great. Yeah, they're saying that that's much better, Edward.
Oh, so they can hear me through your thing. Okay, cool.
Yep. It's going to sound like I'm speaking the entire time, you guys, but this is really Edward. It's visible on YouTube, so we've kind of figured that out. For some reason, it gets feedback. I can't even when I'm trying to mute myself. So it's kind of interesting. If those of you out there trying to stream everywhere, you're just going to have to go through the host. And for now, anyway, until Elon gets that fixed. Okay, continue on, Edward. I just wanted to make sure everybody could hear you.
Yeah. So, you know, when the Supreme Court overturned the 1512 charge, that was like my main felony. I had a conspiracy to do a 1512, like 2 felonies in one. And so basically when the 1512 was overturned, my conspiracy charge fell apart. We filed for the bail pending appeal. The government filed for an extension, a 30-day extension. And of course the judge granted it. And they waited till the very last day to come and tell my lawyer, we are not even going to fight his appeal. We're just going to vacate the charges. But they left the misdemeanor on my record, the trespassing. And so I'm still doing probation for that. Well, I was, and now Trump pardoned us, so that's over with. And thankfully, because it wasn't just like regular probation. I had to pay restitution every month. I had to do a community service, which was ridiculous. And I was banned from DC. I was banned. I was banned from going near Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Like just all these just stupid, crazy little things that my judge threw in there because she was really angry at me because I argued with her at sentencing. And you know, so. But ever since I got released, even before like this entire time, I've been trying to speak out as much as possible and getting active. Like I've been, doing activism since 2020, since the COVID days, so I'm not going to stop. This just like the whole reason why they came after us the way they did really was to try to silence us and then show other people like this is what is going to happen to you if you speak out, if you try to, act like this country belongs to you, the people, which it does. But if you actually believe it and act on it, we're going to destroy your lives. And so I'm not going to let them, have that victory. And, I also want to say like prayer really works. Like, so when I was in jail, I read the Bible many times. I would pray every day. People would send me letters of them praying. And we just started winning. Like Trump's cases started getting overturned left and right. Our case got overturned to 1512. We had all this momentum going into the election. The Democrats fell apart. We won in a landslide. First time but the first time in like decades that the Republicans won the popular vote. It was like his mandate is undeniable. And I was actually getting a little worried, like, I was checking in on the inauguration here and there and the ceremonies and stuff. And I was like, I was worried, like, is he going to be like not doing the pardons, because he said day one. And then and I saw that video of him saying, well, no, he has to wait to go to the White House, the Oval Office, and he's going to do it there today. And then sure enough, he did. So, it's a good start to the promises made, promises kept, I think. We're really starting off the administration with a bang, and I'm really happy.
Yeah, that's it. And listen, I was super grateful as well, in terms of what.
Oh no, you're muted for me again. Yeah, I don't know why.
Am I muted for you now? Can you hear me now? No.
Did you mute yourself?
No, I'm unmuted. This is strange. This is strange. I'm going to take myself out. Is that better? Can you hear me now? No,
I don't hear you for some reason. Kaylin says she can't hear you in the spaces either.
I can hear her. I can hear her.
Oh, you can hear her?
Yes, that's you.
How is that possible? I just heard her. Okay.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Weird.
Caitlin, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I can hear you fine, Edward. I just can't.
I didn't touch anything. I was hearing her.
My mic.
Now I can hear you. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, I was actually saying, in terms of what the pardons themselves, one of the biggest things that I've been concerned about is your pardons, like all of your pardons. And I was even concerned about him going to the White House, even the trip to the White House to make these pardons, considering Joe Biden pardoned the J6 commission during Trump's speech. It was not known. Yeah, it's absolutely not known or just before his speech, which tells us everything that we need to know, everybody, because I'm going to tell you, we've all had family members. A lot of people have lost their entire families over this, whether they were involved or not. I mean, there are J6 hostages that wives left them, children left them, wouldn't speak to them. So, Edward, first of all, what I want to tell you is, the human spirit is a great thing. So tell us about you before you became a J6 hostage. Like, were you a normal guy working a job? What were you doing?
I was working. Yeah. I built cabinets. I've done many jobs though throughout my life. But my first introduction into politics was actually in 2018. I was going to college and I joined Young Americans for Liberty, which is a libertarian college group. And, so I had a little bit of political training. I went to Leadership Institute training and this and stuff like that. But but when COVID came around, right, the COVID lockdowns, I would see, I'm in Los Angeles, so there's the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally was starting up here, and it was about against the COVID tyranny that we were going through, and I would see Antifa show up and assault people, and the Patriots would fight back, but it was Antifa was very violent and aggressive, so I wanted to show up and stand with the Patriots and have my voice heard as well. And so my first protest that I went to was in, I think, May of 2020. I had one time I had gone to a Ben Shapiro event actually in 2019, which was the first time I actually saw Antifa, and they were just rabid, ridiculous, crazy people. They were not interested in dialogue. They would just scream at everybody that was there. But in earnest, it started in May of 2020. And yeah, I eventually, so I would always I was very loud with the loudspeaker and stuff. I would try to troll people and laugh at people that were criticizing us and screaming at us. And so I had a lot of fun with that. But so eventually, the Antifa presence got greater and greater to the point where on October 31st of 2020 on Halloween, they showed up with 50 people all dressed in paramilitary gear, and they started assaulting my friend Lisa Simpson, and I tried to intervene. I just got the attention off of her onto me, I wasn't attacking them or anything, and then sure enough they started jumping me, and then I fought back, and eventually the cops finally stepped in. They were all standing there watching for 5 minutes, and then you can find the video of that on YouTube. It's called Antifa versus Wonder Woman, because Lisa was dressed like Wonder Woman, handing them out flowers when they started assaulting her. She's a very nice person. But so that was really, I wouldn't say radicalized me, but it made me very angry. These people are enemy. I would consider them enemy combatants on U.S. soil. They're real actual domestic terrorists. And they get treated like they're just some spoiled, angry kids or something, or some angry college kids, when really they're actually a very dangerous threat to our country. Yeah, that's the video right there.
So what they've done, and let's explain this to the public, because I feel like people we're in such a information war that it's been actually very confusing for the regular citizen because of the mainstream media failing to report the truth. Here you've got a lady that, let's just call her the flower child, Wonder Woman flower child, against what looks like, Antifa themselves. Look, they're the ones with their faces covered in all black and it looks very radical, but yet the mainstream media, I feel like, have made it out as though, the other side, the opposite side of what we are is what they are. And this is directly out of the communist playbook as well, to use a tactic where, you call somebody something that you are actually doing. I forget the exact term. Somebody may know the term.
Well, it comes from rules for radicals, which is what they really
Okay.
study. It's like Hillary Clinton's favorite book. And yeah, it's accuse your enemy of what you're doing. That's like one of the rules for radicals is to do that. And absolutely, that's what they do. All the way up until J6 and still to this day, like all their accusations against us is really who they are. So like they'll accuse us of being racist, right? But really everything that they do is based on race and categorizing and segregating people by race. And you know, this idea of like white supremacy, really it comes from the left when they say that like white people are better than or have more privilege or however they want to couch it in terms that make us I'm not white, but make white people seem like they're oppressors when really they're actually a global minority. But anyway, so and then they'll say that like we are warmongers, right? And then they'll support wars like in the Ukraine war, for example. So when it's something that's, you know, for pushing one of their causes, all of a sudden it's okay. But when let's say if we wanted to fight a war that was like actually righteous, they would say, oh, well, you're warmongers, you're this and that. So in everything, like they'll say that I actually had a debate with a leftist once, and he goes like, you know, we have to take down the bureaucracy and this and that. I'm like, did you just say bureaucracy? Like, do you realize who the bureaucracy in this country is? You know what bureaucracy is? It's like the epitome of Marxism. It's when government bureaus, unelected bureaucrats, control the people, which happens in Marxist countries, and then what they're trying to do here in America. So what I was yelling at them here when I was trying to distract them, I was like, communism is dead, Marxism is dead. I was like laughing at them, and that's what got their attention onto me. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Like their belief system makes no sense. And as of late, I still go to the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally. I was just there last night. It's still going on pretty much every Saturday, and they don't show up anymore. They're gone. Like there's no BLM Antifa that I've ever seen anymore. Like in the past several months, it's like, I guess their funders and their donors like saw how the BLM people were grifting that money and you know, buying themselves houses and mansions and stuff, and that money seems to have dried up, so they don't show up anymore because they don't have any real beliefs that they actually believe in, and they can't debate it. There's a lot of feds in their ranks. Like this guy we're looking at right now is like textbook, looks like a fed. But yeah, they had that. So and they don't even try to like stop the feds. Like I don't know if they don't realize or they like coordinating with the government, but like this guy right here too, pretty sure
he's trying to, and notice he's trying to, I'm going to actually back this up a bit. Notice he's trying to actually, like, he's trying to manhandle her right here. I mean, it's obvious he's trying to manhandle her. Like, I mean,
she's walking in a public street.
Push her.
Yeah.
So and same with him. And so technically, you know, and notice they're the ones again covering their faces. She's not covering her face. She's trying to actually like, and see, she doesn't buy into it, so they don't know what to do. Yeah, like she's hilarious. But when you're nice, and you know, I mean, and this is the truth. I mean, they really don't know what to do. When we know what to do, they will do anything they can to try to dismantle any goodness that somebody's tried to bring forth. So you know, I mean,
so this angle it focuses a lot on her, and then it doesn't show the build up to me getting jumped, but it's gonna jump to that. Like once the fighting actually starts, it's he quickly switches over the camera. Yeah, like pretty much right here. And so okay, I guess I can narrate it real quick. So they were trying to yank on my flag multiple times, and I punched the dude.
You want me to play the audio? I can play the audio if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were trying to steal my flag away in a very aggressive way. So I punched one of the dudes that was doing that, and they started surrounding me and walking me down. And this guy keeps trying to pepper spray me. This guy with the helmet keeps trying to pepper spray me, and every time so I'm saying he has a mace. Like he has a mace because a week before this they had arrested my buddy for trying to pepper spray Antifa. Okay, the cops.
Notice, but I want everybody to notice something. If I might interrupt you, Edward, they're walking towards you. You're backing up.
Absolutely.
Okay, you are backing up. Everybody, look, and when you're backing up, you're not going towards them. They're coming towards you. Like this is like we have to start paying attention as Americans. I mean, I hate to interrupt to even say this because we think that it's obvious, but to some people, it's not obvious. I mean, the media did not make that obvious.
No.
The attorneys did not make these things obvious. I mean, I'm just going to say, I've listened to a lot of the court cases and I'm like, it's obvious. You should have said, look, they're attacking my client. My client's not attacking them. You know, you're trying to defend yourself. You're trying to get them away from you, utilizing your fight when they're so close. But otherwise, they're the ones. These are the aggressors. These are the attackers. And yes, some of them have been fed. Some of them have been FBI, and I think probably former CIA and police. I think a lot of these guys may have been off-duty police themselves.
When I went to the police station, they had video, and they're like, this was from one of our people that were in the crowd. So they absolutely have people. But so I was just trying to point out to the cops that this guy has mace, so he get arrested because you're not allowed to have mace at a protest in California. But of course they didn't do anything, and eventually they surrounded me and they started jumping me at this point. But then I to protect my head to not get stomped on, I took that guy down that you see right there. I took him down on the ground and I was holding my head next to his so they wouldn't stomp my head because they'd hit their own guy, you know. And then see the cops here pull me off of that dude. And out of the like 20 people that punched me, they only arrested one person that hit me with a lead pipe. Yeah. But that main guy that you keep seeing, that little short dude, that I know his name. His name is Brian Lightfoot. He actually went down to San Diego. They did the same thing in San Diego, but they like straight up went and assaulted like old elderly Trump people that were just like selling merch at tables and stuff, and they just came at them with pepper spray and just immediately started assaulting them. So finally he got arrested on 11 counts, like violent charges. And so San Diego is more conservative, so they're not gonna be like soft the way these Beverly Hills police are with them. But luckily this day, they got kicked out of this area, and then we got to continue our protest. So it was kind of a little bit of a victory, I would say.
Did you have any kind of wounds or anything like that from? If you skip towards the end of the video, you'll see like my face because I'm like cheerful, but I'm giving an interview to the camera, and you can see like I had a couple of bruises on my face, but they didn't even give me a nosebleed, or they didn't even bust my lip, and they hit me like 50 times. And I was training Muay Thai at this time, so I was like used to getting punched in the face. I wasn't like, rocked at all, like concussed or anything. Just mostly on my forehead was just bruised up. But I thought it was funny. Like to me, like they're so pathetic and disgusting. Like I never try to let them like make me feel like I'm sad or despair or like, oh, woe is me or a victim. Even in this J6 persecution, this whole time, I was not miserable and despair at any point. So tell us about J6. Like, okay, so you decided
so this
to
is
go.
3 days. This is 3 days before the election. Okay. This is October 31st. And then the election happened November. Well, I think it was November 6th, actually. So it was like 5 days, right? Or 5 or 6 days. So we had an election night party with a little group of protesters that we had here. My close friends. And, so we're watching the election go down. Trump's winning all night. So we're all happy. We're like, okay, he's got it in the bag. And then 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, there's a like 400,000 vote spike for Biden in Pennsylvania. And all of a sudden it was just statistically impossible. And all of a sudden, he wins Pennsylvania. Like, and then sure enough, they started stealing it in other states too, with this delayed vote count and this because of COVID and this mail-in ballots, supposedly. And so we were pissed off. Like, what the heck just happened? They just stole this election like in front of everybody's eyes. And So because we were already worried about them stealing the election using the COVID. If you remember, we were like, oh no,
Oh yeah.
they're doing this whole rollout with these mail-in ballots, like they're going to try to steal election. And sure enough,
Well,
they did.
using Mark Zuckerberg and his Zuckerbucks to buy
Yep.
all of the mail-in ballot centers. Also, in Miami-Dade County, they wanted us to wear a mask to vote. You can't see what a person looks like. You cannot identify them with a mask on, but they were supposed to be wearing a mask to vote, and all while they were not allowing Republican voters in the door to vote without a mask on. It took me over 3.5 hours to vote without a mask, to the point where I had to call the governor's office. Because even our local mayors, both, and I'm talking during one election, we had a Republican local mayor. During another election, we have a Democrat local mayor, neither mayor. But the situation was the same with both of them. So, that's the reason we all have to stay vigilant in the whole process. Okay, continue on. So we believe the election was allegedly stolen, and that's what we will continue to believe, no matter if we're kicked off of platforms or not.
Well, they admitted it, like when they said they published articles like how the Zuckerbucks, like you're talking about, how they fortified the election. So you can call it fortified, I guess, like the way you add vitamin D to milk, and now it becomes fortified milk because you added ballots into the mix. So I guess you fortified the election technically. But it's been they just when it's like, okay, like when we went like the Great Replacement thing, right? That they say is a conspiracy theory or whatever. The idea came from them bragging about it. Like when Biden said, white people are going to be an absolute minority because of immigration as of 2050 or whatever. But then if you say it, all of a sudden it's a conspiracy theory because you're against it. Yep. And they call themselves globalists. They openly call themselves globalists. But if you're a conservative and you say they're globalists, all of a sudden it's a conspiracy theory. So they'll brag about stealing the election, and then if we say the election is stolen, all of a sudden it's a conspiracy theory. It's another rules for radicals trick that they use.
Yes.
But so
whatever the enemy is telling you, just for those of you watching, if an enemy is saying that they are doing something, you should actually go, okay, whatever they're saying, they are most likely doing, because they're pointing fingers at another person, and that's a typical old political regime, directly out of Venezuela and Cuba and everything else. So,
yeah, they'll say the Catholics, they're pedophiles, this and that, which there are. But actually, if you look at it statistically, teachers, which are majority Democrat, actually have a higher rate of assault against children than the Catholic Church even does. So, yeah, it's just another. Yeah, there's a party
because they want you to continue to send your children there every day. The public school system.
And then brainwash them about all kinds of disgusting sodomy and transitioning but yeah, so we were very pissed about the election, but we didn't have a plan or anything. We weren't like, oh, we're gonna go to the Capitol now and do this and that. We like that wasn't crossing our minds at all. And then we started to see like the Stop the Steal protests that were popping up in November and in December, and 4 Proud Boys got stabbed by Antifa. There. So again, it was just like we're facing this constant sort of like disgust and about how the left was just violently sort of and also the BLM riots too. We were just like really pissed off that this was being allowed to happen, like this basically communist takeover of this country. And then Trump said, he's going to have a rally at January 6th, like his last time he's going to be speaking. But hoping that Mike Pence does the right thing and sends the votes back to the states, and then I guess some people were going to challenge the vote in Congress, which some of them did, and which was never addressed, which is unconstitutional. They're supposed to, even if the proceeding was delayed or whatever, they're supposed to address those challenges, and they didn't. But anyway. So when he announced that, we decided, okay, we should go, because I never got to see Trump speak at any rally. He hadn't come to California when I was starting to get politically active. So we planned a road trip, to drive over there, and we drove for like 33 hours, me and like 6 other people in a van that was rented. And it was like a few old people and a few like very young people, like 21, 22. Only really me, DJ, or my co-defendant, Danny Rodriguez. I think he's going to be released today. He wasn't released last night. He's an MDC, but hopefully he'll be released today.
Well, let's make sure that we get a tweet out and we get a call chain going to the prisons. That's what we did last night to some of the halfway houses, because we cannot just assume that they're going to be released. So we don't want any man left behind. Okay. So this is, these are hostages. Trump has confirmed that they're hostages and they've been pardoned. They should have been immediately released last night upon this. I mean, so we as American people, we need to get behind whoever that is still incarcerated or that has an ankle monitor on, whatever they have. We need to get behind them and make sure that they are released before the end of this day. I mean, literally, I was up until 2 a.m. Making sure, sending tweets, sending messages out to attorneys that I knew that were nearby, because, we have to stand together. This is not an end. This is not over. Let's say.
Yeah. No. When they say they're using this. They're using this BS excuse like, oh, the paperwork hasn't come in or whatever. It's like the paperwork is the pardon paperwork. That is the paperwork. There's no other paperwork.
It's online.
That's all it is.
Online. Yep.
So there were some prisons, especially mostly in the BOP, that Bureau of Prisons, that were good, and they realized that. So whoever's running their prison just like immediately released people, as it says. It says it multiple times in the order. That's supposed to be immediate release, effective immediately, like right now. But the DC DOC, Department of Corrections, is so corrupt, and they hate us so much because we expose a lot of like issues that was going on with that prison, with that jail, the DC jail, the Gulag. And we got a lot of national attention on it. The Congress people came, the U.S. Marshals came, and they forced them to like make a bunch of repairs. So they really don't like us at that jail, and they're all like mostly Democrats.
A lot of people need to understand that the jails are often funded and owned by the very judges that are sending defendants to jail. So them are their friends. They all have their hand in the cookie jar. They all have their hand in the cookie jar. They don't have disclosures. Many of them don't even have oaths of offices. So, which actually, in my opinion, makes them an illegal entity as a whole, and an illegal part of their fake corporation. So that is the reason Trump is calling you guys hostages, because that's what it is. You're a hostage to a corporation. And a lot of people have not realized that as well. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes, I want to make sure the audience understands exactly what you're going through in the process. And not only that, but what he's also talking about is the corruption. They don't paint the walls. They don't have fresh water in some of the jails. The mattresses are like an inch and a half thick. I mean, I'm talking about, this is in America, you guys. This is right here in your own backyard, while they're trying to distract you to send money to the Ukraine and everywhere else. I mean, because they keep funding these same corrupt politicians, because judges are politicians. They have to run for office. So just keep that in mind. These are politicians, and they are padding each other's pockets, and they know that we're going to be coming
Okay, I think this time you did mute yourself because it has a little microphone symbol on your name on the StreamYard. What? There we go. Now I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine when I'm talking about the prisons and the judges' oaths of office that we've been after, that my microphone would suddenly mute without me even touching it.
Whoa.
So, because the judges' oaths of office, a lot of them don't even have oaths of office. They have not sworn an oath to the U.S. Constitution. They have sworn an allegiance to their corporation, which oftentimes they own. And those are things that will be coming out. I feel very confident in the way that your pardons are even worded, and that President Trump called you hostages. You have been hostages to a corporation, and to a foreign, which could be considered a foreign government operating on U.S. soil.
Held for ransom, right? Like, technically, yeah.
Correct. And then that is correct, because you've been required to pay monies that you really shouldn't be owing or are not due. And that has not been in the way of gold or silver. So I think there's a lot to be coming out of your cases, aside from the fact that, you have been held hostage in terms of what's here. I'm very interested to have some of the attorneys on to discuss some of the cases, to see if you guys have, what your civil cases are like. Because I do think it's, they've utilized you guys as corporations, your name's in all capitalization,
Right.
Against another corporate. So there may be a legal entity, your legal entity may be able to sue their legal entity as a whole. So it's going to be a very interesting next 4 years. Okay, so let's get back. Okay, so J6, you are in front of the Capitol. Where are you located?
Okay, so this is also a long story. I don't know how much time you have, but I'll try to get through it quick. So we went to J6, and we brought our we brought defensive weapons and armor or whatever, paintball gun, pepper spray, and all that stuff was in Arlington, Virginia, where our Airbnb was. So it never entered the city of DC. The reason we brought defensive gear is because we were watching Antifa and Proud Boys fighting in the street in the Stop the Steal protest, and I had experience, you just saw, with being jumped by Antifa. I didn't want that to happen again, and me not be able to defend myself. So we brought stuff, but we left it in Airbnb when we went to go see Trump, because we figured, if there was going to be any fighting that was going to happen from Antifa, it would be at night, because all the other times it happened at night. And so we went to the Trump speech completely unarmed, with nothing on us. So I was afraid, because the crowd was so massive. It was like, I would say easily over 1 million people. I was afraid I was not going to be able to go see Trump because the line was so long. So I actually moved the barrier aside, and in front of the Secret Service, they saw me do it. They didn't care, and cut the line so I could get in. And I got patted down by the Secret Service, and I was able to get in and go watch Trump. And I was actually able to be right next to the stage, 20 feet away from him. And it was a great speech, and very inspiring and empowering. But even in that crowd right there, I started to notice there was people there that were not patriots. I was standing in front of these two dudes that were pretty much ignoring Trump. They kept talking to each other, and on their jackets, they were wearing black jackets with red communistic sort of imagery on it, communist war imagery. And I was like, and they looked like soy boys. And I was like, these guys are not. There's no way that these guys are patriots. And then he said, let's march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. And at that point, my spidey senses were tingling a little bit, because I was like, wait a second, I don't see any Antifa counter protesting us, but they were here. I know they're in DC for sure. So, is it possible that they're trying to infiltrate the crowd? It'd be like agent provocateurs. So I was already thinking that at that point, and because a lot of people, this was their first rally. The vast majority of J6ers, this is their first time they've ever been to a rally. Not all of them really had experience with Antifa before, so they don't know how evil and how violent and what their tactics really are. And so I don't know. I wouldn't say a leader, but I kind of saw myself as someone that has a little bit of knowledge when it comes to this, with activism and protesting and stuff. So I need to try to have a little sense of responsibility, to make sure everything is cool. And when we were marching over to the Capitol, I didn't see any. There was no usually when there's a march, the police will have lines set up, right, and they'll guide the crowd to where they're going to go. They have loudspeakers, and they're very they make sure that the crowd marches in a safe manner and a safe route. Even yesterday when we did the Beverly Hills march, for example, there was officers marching with us and making sure like we all, we obey the laws and we walk in the sidewalk and like protect us from any violence or from, anything breaking out. So that's a normal protocol for them to do that. But there was none of that. The crowd is just walking towards the Capitol. Most of the people were peaceful, but I started seeing some people were just like trying to shove their way through the crowd and get to the front, and they're dressed in black. They're not even pretending to be Trump supporters, a lot of them. And so I tried to follow one of them, and I couldn't. I lost him in the crowd. He was like really shoving his way through people, and I wasn't going to shove, Patriots. But so I ended up more towards the front of the MAGA crowd, the actual MAGA crowd that arrived after, other people were already there. And so when the people from the Trump speech came, we had no idea that there was already the so-called breach, right, of the barriers, that the cops had retreated back into the building. And actually, when you look at the videos, two of the three times that they retreated was because they gassed themselves. So people like Officer Tao, you can see his body cam video. He's like going against the advice of his own lieutenant, telling him, "Hey, stop! Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "No, give me another CS gas bomb. Do you have rubber bullets?" Like, oh, he's like looking for like weapons to launch at the crowd indiscriminately. And in doing that, the wind actually blew the gas back onto them, and you can see all the other officers like suffocating. So they had to retreat. That happened two separate times
because of their own idiocracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when the actual Trump crowd arrived around like 2:30, 2:15, 2:30 to the building, all we could see I was at the lower West Terrace. All we could see is like a sea of people basically like draped over the steps, and a line of officers standing at the top of the Capitol, just like standing there with their rubber bullet guns or whatever. That you couldn't see it. It didn't look like there was any violence going on at all, which I don't think there even was at that point. And my assumption was, oh well, okay. They obviously like they are supposed to have set up some type of way where we can march around the building. I didn't know the layout of the Capitol. I didn't know how it was up there. I thought there would be some pathway that people are marching around and continuing on, right? But when I worked my way up there, I saw, oh, there is nowhere to go. This entire crowd is arriving, hundreds of thousands of people, and there's nowhere to go. They're just like pushed up against the building. Like, what's going to happen here? These cops, and they had no loudspeakers. So when they use lethal, it's called less lethal, but it's still lethal. They killed 4 people. They killed Benjamin Phillips, Kevin Greason with gas bombs and rubber bullets, and then beat Roseanne Boyle to death, and it actually used the actual gun to kill Ashley Babbitt, which they never pulled a single gun in the thousands and thousands of BLM riots and Antifa riots. They never pulled a single gun on them. But an unarmed woman, veteran, just for trespassing, they shot and killed her. Like that's crazy. But anyway, so but at this point where I was, they weren't launching anything yet. I was standing at the top of the bleachers. And I was like worried, like, this is gonna, get really bad. And I noticed, like, when I looked down into the inaugural stage, because I was at the top, I could see a group of guys near the window, which is next to the tunnel where Roseanne Boylan was beaten to death. Next to that tunnel, there's a window on the left side, and I could see these guys trying to like break the window. And one dude is like standing on the windowsill with a sledgehammer, an actual giant like sledgehammer. Okay, he's like trying to smash the window. If you can see the marks of the sledgehammer. If you look at it's a video called Edward Badalian Disarms Capitol Window Breaker on YouTube.
Okay.
So this is like, this video basically shows where I'm at in the story right now.
Okay.
So this guy's breaking the window with a sledgehammer, and the other Trump supporters, the actual ones, detain him, and they like crowd surf his sledgehammer away, and they have him like held up by his arms and legs. And this guy's not even trying to wear Trump gear. He's like and that's relevant for a reason I'll let you know in a sec. So I walk down the bleachers, and I walk past this scene where they have this guy held up, and he has like a little beret hanging out of his pocket, and I'm like, I look at his, he looked like a leftist to me, so I'm like, put his hat on, and they put his hat on, and he just looked like the spitting image of like a soy boy leftist, like postmodernist French style. You know, they have that dude. So then, but out of this little group of window breakers, another guy replaces him. So the next guy has a billy club in his hand. And at this point, the crowd is basically chanting Antifa at them. You can hear it in the video. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So I did an interview for InfoWars on January 7th on the way back from the Capitol, where they played this video and they had me walk them through it. So that's me taking. So
really quick. Could you have gotten into this rally with the devices, the pick, the sledgehammer, all the things that they were using to break this window? Because you said you had to go through security and everything earlier, correct?
Yes. So these people were not at the Trump rally.
Okay.
They could not have been. You couldn't have had any of this stuff. They wouldn't have let you in for sure. And I didn't even know that they had that ice pick. I hadn't seen it. Like they could have like stabbed me, but anyway. So when I heard them chanting Antifa at these guys, the crowd, you'll be able to hear it in the video too when he plays the full thing. I was like pissed off, like, oh, like Antifa, they did infiltrate us, like I suspected, and here they are trying to break the windows, agitate, and make us look like we're violent. So I was really pissed off. So I pushed my way through the crowd a little bit, and you can see it. You can see I pushed my way through the crowd right here.
So he could do that. So
yeah, that's me talking.
I focused on that guy. I grabbed his little billy club and I snatched him up in like half of a rear naked choke. And then all his friends who were fake Patriot Antifa grabbed me. They're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm like, "We're not here to smash the building. We're not here to destroy the property. We're here for the traitors. We're here to protest the election steal." You know?
Yeah, and so you're saying, because that wasn't on footage, you're saying there was another guy originally at the front who had a sledgehammer that got identified and removed.
Yeah, so if you see that
like
circular crack right next to where he's hitting it with the billy club, those like kind of small cracks that he's trying to make with the billy club, that circular deep crack, that was made by Sledgehammer guy. Okay,
gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. So
he's talking about this here, like
yes,
you guys, yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of this video, at the end of my interview, I tell Owen, I'm like, because we were looking on Instagram for like, videos of video footage of what was happening and stuff. And we found a dude who's admitting that he was paid to pretend to protest, and that he failed. He wasn't able to pull it off. And it was an organized effort, but he can't say who it was. And I'm looking at this guy's video. I'm like, that's Sledgehammer guy. That's him. I saw this dude breaking the window, and it's in that video. Like at the end of it, Owen's people, they find that video and they play it live on the live broadcast. And eventually, I did my research and found out who this guy was. And his name is John.
I'll play it as well, so that way we can get it on camera.
Yes.
And then I'm gonna have to have you back, Edward, because we're at the top of the hour. So I've got another interview coming in, but. I want to make sure to have you back, but let's play the
same guy.
This is a great thing to go off on because he's like,
here's
like one of the most important things.
Allegedly, this guy admitting he was paid to go out there and start violence. So here's the video we mentioned earlier. Roll it.
Leader McCarthy, leader in the House, said to us
look, I just left the protest at the Capitol building, and I got a big bruise on my leg. I had a difficult time pulling off the act that I was paid to do. And I'm making this video because I want to confess that I was paid
because you'd also told them to come and be wild. And I hope that's not too philosophical.
To pretend to protest today.
In my experience, I've worked at the agency for 33 years, and
I can't say by who, but I will just say that it's a
these kinds of situations that I watched in other countries.
Organized effort.
Where mobs,
and I wonder where he is in D.C. It looks like almost like an official government building he's in the basement of.
Yep.
we're going to have to leave it at there, because that's exactly, listen, Edward, that's what I believe. I know that's what you guys believe. Why don't you wrap us up and tell everybody where to follow you? And I definitely want to have you back. I would like to have you back as a co-host, interview even some of the other J6ers.
Sure.
Because I know that all of you guys know each other. You've created a community. So I'm going to put you in a group. And if anybody is available, I want to invite you to come on, because I just want to make sure that we get everybody's story, because it's very important. I want to bring something forth that you mentioned earlier, which is Leadership Institute, which is a great program that people can follow. It's very conservative and helps people get their conservative mindset, values, and even helps people learn to run for office, which is fantastic. So, Edward, tell us about you now. What are your plans? What are you going to do?
So, actually, out of the DC Gulag, me and my close friend, John Mellis, fellow J6er, we started a podcast, with the evidence laptops that still had a camera working on them. We were able to record it inside the prison. And so we started interviewing J6ers there in the prison. It's called the DC Gulag Podcast. You can find it on a We Are Good Men channel on Rumble, or wearegoodmen.com. And that's John's website. But yeah, you can see it. We were basically, because so many of us were silenced and are deplatformed, and our voices were taken away. So we want to give all the J6ers and people in the J6 community too that have stood up for us, I would say the real heroes, a voice. So that's what I'm trying to promote and have as many J6ers come on, especially now that everyone's pardoned. We're gonna have a lot of people on, so it's very exciting.
I was going to say, and now you guys can actually tell your stories, because there are so many things that people could not say. I know even with my mom's own story, there were times I would actually take it off of YouTube, because I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to come and, and raid our house? Because my mom was out back actually talking to a police officer and hearing them laugh and be jovial. That they were supposed to, they were actually sending people home. So it was absolutely, from what she heard, it was the exact opposite of, what was going on the front side. So, Gabriel's going to be on later today. There's
nice
people. Gina's going to be on later today. So
yeah. That's another thing we're trying to so we're trying to, there's a lot of division kind of in the J6 community because of all the different stuff that happened, a lot of drama here and there. So for example, Gina, she's from Beverly Hills Freedom Rally too. That's where we met originally before we went to J6. They forced her to testify against me at my trial. And she was unable to lie on the stand because she's a Christian woman. And she was insulted by the judge for that. But yeah, the charge that they needed her for to stick, her testimony fell apart and was dismissed because she refused to lie on the stand for the prosecution. And so another thing we want to do is really kind of reconcile any issues that have occurred in the J6 community and unite and come together, because we'll be much stronger that way rather than bickering amongst ourselves. We need to be united because we're only 2,000 people and our families. We can be a very strong force in the Republican Party if we unite within each other and then bring as many people to the movement as possible.
Well, one of the things that my focus is, Edward, is finding good candidates to run for office as Veterans for America First, National Press Secretary. We need good candidates that run for office, veterans, fighters, men, white men. And we need people who, our founding fathers would have chosen to sign the Constitution with, not people who are going to bow to a government or bow to a corporation or go along.
Are you a veteran?
My grandfather is a veteran, and my brother is still in service right now. So I have most of my family members are veterans or are still in service at this very moment. But I am my grandfather, when I wanted to go in the service, he said, you can do more out than in. And my grandfather was Army attaché intelligence for JFK. Wow. He was the one who actually gave JFK the message that Fidel was about to take over Cuba. So
wow.
He was based here in Miami for a while, Mexico City, Africa, Ethiopia, Bangkok, Thailand, and many other places. So he was a very, very wise man.
That's why you're very intelligent too.
Right.
Good genes.
It kind of helps, to be able to put the pieces together too.
Yeah.
And I will go as far to say as we do need people like yourselves. We do need the unity amongst the J6ers. And, and God told me when I wasn't there that there was going to be a day, he said, save your voice, because don't exhaust yourself, because you're going to need a voice in 2024. And so so I've done several interviews with mostly J6ers and whistleblowers, and I broke the Dr. Fraudchi story with James O'Keefe. I went undercover for James O'Keefe and broke the Dr. Fraudchi story. So that is my footage that everybody is seeing, where I called Dr. Fraudchi. So
yeah,
we are here. We're the front lines. We're not going.
Oh no, my camera died. Sorry, but I guess it's good timing. I was
I'm
about to show you my Fauci shirt that I'm wearing right now.
Post it on your Twitter, and guys, I'm going to make sure to share this. I will make sure to also share Edward's platform. And Edward, I definitely want to have you back on, buddy. We'll be in touch. And
for sure.
You got a final word for the audience? I mean, I know we want them to follow wearegoodmen.com, follow you on Twitter. What else can they do to support you or support any of your efforts?
I would say the most important thing is we just won a bunch of battles, right? But the war really is just beginning. I mean, what we're facing right now is like 100, if not more, year plan to take over and dismantle and destroy America. So we have to be focusing on 2026. We have a majority in the House and Senate, but we need it to be much bigger. And we need it to be with MAGA candidates, with real America First people in office. No more lukewarm neocons and rhinos. So people need to get active, 10 times more active than they were last year. Like just a full court press, and like you said, finding candidates for local office or running themselves. Like just if you feel like you can be a good leader, like please run. Like you will get the votes if you put in the work with door knocking. Like Scott Pressler proved that. If you put in the work with door knocking, registering people to vote, we have it in the bag. As long as we keep the election secure when the time comes, we're going to win every single election, because most people are conservative naturally, especially families, which are the majority of people. So we can easily expand our majority in 2026. It doesn't have to be one of those situations where, the president wins and then in the midterm elections, the other side takes over. No, why? Why does it have to be like that? We can just expand our majority even more and actually start undoing some of the more difficult, things that you need a bigger majority in Congress for. Imagine if we had 2/3 of Congress, what we could get done, so that's just, we need to, get involved in your local Republican parties. Like I'm a member of the CRA, California Republican Assembly. There's a lot of Republican groups around you guys that you can join. You can, if they're full of rhinos and neocons, you can, root them out little by little. But we need to start now. We can't just rest on our laurels now that we've won the election and Trump's in office. Like, no, now it's time to use that momentum to win even more and more and more.
Absolutely. Well said, Edward. God bless you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you subscribe to patriotsperspective.com for truthful news, uncensored truth delivered daily. I am the propaganda destroyer, Christi Reeves-Tasker. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Christi.
Remember, take action. Take action. Don't let big tech win. Share this video with a friend now. Most importantly, do unto others as you would have others do unto you.